We will kick off today's episode with our guest speaker pitching why you should listen to our podcast and follow our journey. Let's get started, folks.
Even under very difficult circumstances like with coronavirus, it's possible to create a group of people, either in person or online or both, that can accomplish some really cool goals, even with some major challenges. And the fact that we were able to do that I think, is pretty cool.
Welcome to an episode of Young Entrepreneurs with the Green Earth team of Southern Illinois University Carbondale. We are a cross-university team of young, innovative minds positively impacting the landscape of SIU Carbondale through promoting and installing clean energy. Here, we are highlighting our team's activities and impact through our members, sponsors, and supporters, as well as discussing a new, interesting topic. So buckle up, because we are driving to a more sustainable future. Today, we have our team member, Alex Elder, here to talk with us today. Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. Thanks for having me on, Nelson.
Always. So to get today kicked off, would you like to tell the audience a bit about yourself, some things you like to do, where you're at?
Sure. I am 26 and I'm living in Maryland. I am working on becoming an electrical engineer. I'm in school right now to do that. Some of the things that have sort of defined who I am in my career, I was a student on a FIRST robotics team for a while when I was in high school, where I learned a lot about mechanical and electrical engineering. I helped start another team once I was out of high school at another school. And I ended up trying to go to college for a little while, and that didn't really work out super well. And so I entered the workforce pretty much immediately out of high school. And that was actually a very good decision for me. So I went to the workforce pretty much immediately out of high school. And that turned out to be a very good decision. I was able to learn and grow a lot by working in many fields. It started off, I was working at a home theater company where I learned it was hard work. It was low voltage wiring in houses. And I was crawling in attics a lot. But I did learn a bit, and I got some IT experience there as well. I worked as a mechanic for a while, and I got a lot of mechanical experience as a mechanic. I worked at a company that made 3D printed car parts, and I got a lot of experience with FDM 3D printers. I got a lot of mechanical design experience, and that's where I started learning CAD. And then I worked at a company that made assembly line robots, and I got a lot of programming experience there. So even though I didn't necessarily go to school, I think I learned as much as, at least in the practical sense, I learned as much as somebody who would have gone to school. And it's just now my goal is sort of to turn that into an actual degree. And so that's the end of my train of thought.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, I know. I don't like looking at our two paths. Like, I see my past like being a lot like theory, and honestly, like a lot of stuff we're learning is so theoretical that I'm not sure how we can apply it. So, like hearing about like how you're going from the learning side and then adding on the theory, I know that you're gonna do amazing in the future.
Yeah, I really hope it works out for me, because there's been some situations that I've been in where I've definitely wished that I had more of the theory under my belt. There's a lot of like when I'm designing stuff, whether it's mechanically or electrically, there's a lot of just, I have a feel for it only because I know out of experience what things work and what things don't work. But when it comes to designing new things where I don't have experience, if I would have had more of the actual theoretical, book learning type of knowledge, I probably would have been able to accomplish it with less trial and error. So, this worked out for me very well, of course, but there's always ways that, it could have been better, I guess. But at the same time, I'm very grateful for the path that I have decided to take, and the path that I got to take. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's all about the journey and how we get to where we go in the future. And I think enjoying the moment, enjoying all of these moments is the beauty of life.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. So I know we had a few connections made for us to become connected. So you want to talk a bit about how you got to know me and got connected with the Green Roof team?
Yeah, sure. So I got connected with one of the members on the Green Roof team, Ikro. I can't quite remember. I think I met him in a Discord server, and we just started talking because he was interested in Arduinos and programming and stuff. And since I had, at the time, I was basically doing that. I was programming the assembly line robots. He was very interested in learning about that. So we had a lot to talk about on that regard. And I just remember he said, "Hey, I know about this project that a friend of mine is doing with this. They want to build a wind turbine on this roof, and they've got this space already set aside for it, and they need people to help with electrical." And I'm like, okay, like, yeah, sure, let's do it. I don't have anything else to do. I might as well meet some people, talk to people, and figure out this project. And so Ikro introduced me to the rest of the team, and the rest is history, I guess.
You have a nice, rich history. Definitely, I know, like, without you, the turbine, especially the electrical, would not have gotten done. We had such bright eyes and not too much knowledge on how to actually go about the project.
Well, yeah, electrical is one of those things. There's I've known a lot of people who electrical is just difficult because you can't see any of it, and it's hard. It's hard. You have to do either a lot of it mentally or, in the design phase. Not that mechanical is any easier necessarily, but there's tons of challenges on the mechanical side too. But I think it takes kind of a special person to work around, something that you primarily can never touch and never see. It was actually, I was talking about this today with a couple of other people, that was one of the things I noticed about myself, is that I was always pretty good at visualizing whether it was mechanical or electrical things in my head. And I think that's sort of I'm going to confirm this once I get my degree, but I think that's one of the things that helps make good electrical engineers, is the fact that they can really visualize what they're doing in their head, because you can't see, electrons. I wish you could. It would make it a lot easier.
Definitely, I know we joke around electrical engineering about being fake engineering because, oh, it's just all magic up in the wires running across.
I think I told you this joke before, but I was watching this video on there's a great YouTuber called Electroboom, and he was talking about, usually he does electronics projects, right? But he was talking about a mechanical problem, and he started the video off with saying, "Okay, so this is a mechanical problem, and because I'm an electrical engineer, that means I'm overqualified." And I just, as soon as I heard that, I just laughed. I was like, oh my God, all the mechanical guys are going to hate, they're going to hate this video.
But honestly, that's so true, though. because electrical, it's so much more complex. You even have complex numbers and letters in the actual equations, and I'm like, oof.
Oh, there's a lot of math. Yep, there is a lot of math involved with electrical engineering. So, well, actually, yes, yeah, my mom's here. She can hear me talking, and she said to that, she says, she said, don't forget, you've got two parents that were engineers. So I do have two parents that were engineers. So I got plenty of, I think I've got the genes for that.
So growing up, did you do a lot of projects with your parents, and like, is that how you became more STEM focused?
Um, yes, there are a couple of defining moments I remember from when I was little, that really like set me on the path towards engineering. Um, one of them I remember was I really wanted to play around with electricity when I was little. Like I don't know, I don't even know what I don't even think I knew what I wanted to play around. I just wanted to I wanted to have electricity and I wanted to make things happen with it, right? So my mom took me to Radio Shack, and I think she asked one of the guys behind the counter, or maybe I talked to them. I don't even remember anymore. But with their help, they got me a little lantern battery and some alligator clips and wires and like a little light and a little buzzer and a switch and a bunch of other associated electrical items. And it was enough to satisfy me. I think I was like 5 or 6. I don't know. I was little. And just to play around with making things, like I loved connecting the switch up and flipping it back and forth and making the buzzer turn on. And it was just figuring out electrical in a way that was safe. Really really helped me. I mean, I think that's what set me on the path towards it. I mean, that was one of the defining moments when I was little. Another thing I remember, and every time somebody mentions the scientific method, this is the thing that comes to mind for me. And there was a science fair project I did when I was little, and I'm not actually. I need to ask Mom. Do you remember that science fair project where we did the paint samples on the metal?
Yeah,
Did you work for DuPont at that point, or how did you get those paint samples? You must have known somebody who could give them to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a science fair project that we had to do. I can't remember. It was probably 4th or 3rd grade, and my mom got these samples of automotive paint on these little metal. They're called chips, right? Little metal. They're about the size of like a business card, and they just had various colors of car paint. And so the science project was to see how they heated up, like the different colors heated up more or less in the sun, right? So obviously brighter colors, lighter colors would heat up less because they reflected more light, and darker colors would heat up more because they absorb more light. And that was just the whole science fair project, was just to see what colors had what effects. And that always comes to mind whenever we talk about the scientific method. I just had a psychology course where they were talking about the scientific method, like for the 50th time we went over the same thing, right? And as soon as they started talking about the scientific method, I'm like, oh, I remember we made the hypothesis, and then we had the theory, we made the hypothesis, and then we did the testing, and that was just one of the things. And I still do that same exact thought process whenever there's something interesting in the world and I'm trying to come up with an explanation for why that thing is that way. I still go back and remember that science fair project and like, okay, here are the steps of the scientific method to figure something out, right? And I say, okay, well, my theory, and I even say that sometimes if I'm with somebody, like, oh, I think in theory this is why it's like that, and then I think about, well, and then we can test it if we do this, or or if we see this thing, we know it's because of that, or whatever. So that's sort of, those were two of the things that I think set me on that path. There are more, of course. I mean, there's was so many moments in when I was little, but those are the two that I remember, I think, most.
Sweet. Cool. Definitely it's interesting hearing how all your interests just came together over time. So I know for myself, like I would just play with blocks as a kid and came to cross mechanical at some point later in life, and I'm like, I like playing with blocks. I can make definitely it's a lot. There's a lot more in between, but
Right. Right.
and here we are putting up a wind turbine on buildings. Goes a long way.
Definitely goes a long way.
So with the wind turbine, which was our primary project last year, do you want to like give like why you felt the project was important, like some like favorite memories from it all from the time?
Yeah, so I will say that the electrical part of the wind turbine project, there were definitely things we could have done better. I always like to start with that because that means there's room for improvement. And we are actually actively, as of the date of this podcast, we are actively working on that improvement. And I'm really glad that we are, because that's getting into something that I really enjoy, which is electrical design automation, or EDA. But anyway, what remind me of the question again? I forgot.
What was your why for the project, and just like a few great memories from
Okay, that's right. I got off onto a tangent, and then immediately my mind switched to a different thought process, and
Oh
I
no,
couldn't
you're
get
good.
back to my original.
You're good. I actually like the way you're going.
Um, so last year, we had basically the electrical was sort of we we could have done stuff better, but we ended up learning a lot. We found out where a lot of the strengths and weaknesses lied for the team. I would say electrical is one of the biggest weaknesses. And we especially soldering skills. I will say that you guys really needed some soldering help. But we worked on that. We worked on that over the summer. We worked on that. I did a little bit of training with you here physically, and I think you helped some of the other guys in the lab when you got back. And so I just, some of the memories I have was particularly with Icaro. We would have these little discussions after the main meetings, where him and I would talk for probably 3 or 4 hours after, and we would just talk about the theory of the programming that we were going to do, and we were really going into in depth into the low level steps for this stuff, because I really wanted, like, I knew how to do this. I knew how we could get from nothing to the end goal, but I don't think Icaro did, and I wanted him to be able to do that. And I think he's definitely much more on board now. I think he has a much clearer idea of how to get to the end goal now that we want. And I think I've gotten better too at explaining and talking to people and stuff like that. But yeah, the first semester was definitely a learning experience, I guess. Let's put it that way. And it led to some very great things with that were going on currently in the second semester, which I guess I should probably talk about that now, huh? So with the second semester, we wanted to sort of fix some of the mistakes we made in the first semester, and the electrical on our project it wasn't the cleanest, let's put it that way. It worked, but that was about the only compliment I think you could give it. It definitely needed some improvement. So at around the same time as the second semester was just starting, I encountered a project at work where I was running into a similar problem of packaging a lot of discrete electronics into a box, and I was air wiring the stuff, and it was basically falling apart as I was assembling it. And I just thought to myself, I'm like, there has to be a better way to do this. And I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? I think it's time that I finally learned EDA and making printed circuit boards. And that's a skill that I've wanted to learn for years. Like I've always wanted to just, it's just something that I've been interested in learning. I just haven't had time to sit down, or the motivation more likely to sit down and do it. And once I had that need, I was like, it was time. It was time to learn the skill. And I went home that day after work. I found a couple of online tutorials for how to do it. And I had admittedly, it wasn't a super great board, but I had my first board done that night. And I was so close to ordering it. And I'm really glad that I didn't, because I got to take a fresh look at it the next night after I had told my manager at work what I was going to do, and he approved of it. I took a look at it the next night and I said, well, this, I don't know what I was thinking last night when I was doing this, but this is rubbish. So I started completely from scratch and did it over again. And I learned so much the second time on how to do this. And I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun learning how to do that. From going from the schematics to the actual PCB design, there's a lot of really interesting stuff that you encounter. And I used to have a friend who knew how to do that, and I always kind of, like, I sort of understood it, but I didn't really get it until I finally did it. And the entire time I was going through this process, I was like, oh, that's what he meant when he was talking about this, and oh, that's why he always did that. And it was just like the puzzle pieces were coming together so fast, and it was really, really fun. I mean, and keep in mind, I was doing this, I wasn't getting paid for this. I came home and I ate dinner and I sat down at my computer and I worked from about 5 o'clock in the afternoon to 11 at night on the same thing. And I enjoyed every second of it. I loved it. Like I could have just as easily closed it and played video games or something, but I was having more fun learning how to do this. So, and then once semester 2 came around with the green roof, I was like, you know what? I know how we're going to fix semester 1's problems. We are going to take this new skill that I learned, and I'm going to teach it to as many of the electrical people, and also non-electrical people if they're interested, on the green roof. And we're going to make a, I don't know, do I spoil it? I don't know, Nelson, if I should spoil what's coming up at the end of semester 2.
Oh, we can put in the description spoilers ahead.
Okay, all right. So we're working on a custom green roof PCB to sort of combine all the electronics that we had in the semester 1 electrical box onto a single PCB. It'll make it a lot cleaner. It'll be a lot safer. I will also say that, because we didn't have any fusing on the old stuff. I think it'll be really cool. I think that you might even have to like make a clear side for that box so people can see that PCB, and because we're going to have the logo on it and everything. I'm so excited to see what that looks like when it comes out. So anyway, that's what semester 2 has been about for the electrical team, at least, is we're learning the process that I learned of doing EDA. And so for those familiar, we just got through with doing the schematic and wiring, like doing the actual schematic wiring. Now what we're working on is picking out all of our footprints, because we've got a couple of interesting components on there, and finding footprints for them is going to be a little challenging. So, and then we'll finally get to the actual routing and trace design and PCB design stuff, but that should be fairly simple once we get all the footprints done.
Sweet. And I was talking with a few interested individuals today on the green roof, and we were talking about the electrical system. I was showing it to them, and they're interesting, like seeing how all the wires interconnect. And all you could think about the entire time, I didn't spoil it to them, but just how much cleaner it will be once we have the new system in.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be great. I hope you keep a schematic there to show people. You might have to teach them how to read the EDA schematics because they're not as simple, because people are used to seeing wires connecting to wires, and the EDA schematics don't really have any of that. They've got the labels and stuff. But once you know what to look for, it's not super difficult.
Almost definitely. Like what I'm thinking is we can have the top of the box, battery box, all clear, and then on the side have the schematics and have instructions on how to read it too. Perhaps.
Okay. Cool.
That'll be great. That'll be cool.
So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited for that. We'll make it. Actually, you're lucky because the green color, when you order PCBs from JLPCB, the green color is actually the cheapest one. Well, not cheapest, but the fastest turnaround.
Do you know why that is?
I don't know why green. So that's the stuff that we're talking about is called the solder mask. That's what the solder mask is, the thing that's green, right? I don't know why green solder masks became standard. There's probably a reason for it. And I feel like I've looked it up at some point or another, but I can't remember. It was just that's just the way it is. Green solder mask is just the way it is. And so because it's so standard now, JLPCB probably does the vast majority of their orders in green. But we could get it any other color if you wanted to. They have yellow, blue, purple, black, white, whatever. So
okay. I'm gonna call it timeout real quick. I like where we're going. Do you have any thoughts on where we can continue to go from here? And if you have any thoughts about what we've been doing?
Yeah, I'm not really sure about how to continue. I mean, you've got a lot of content already, actually. I think you got almost a half an hour now.
Yeah, we began, 17?
Well, we talked for 15 minutes beforehand. So,
okay.
Yeah, you've got about half an hour of content almost.
Okay, cool. Do you think we're good to wrap it up?
I would say so. Yeah. Why don't we do that?
Okay, on timeout. All right, cool. So Alex, it's been amazing talking with you today. Before we head out for today's episode, is there anything you would like to add on or continue talking about?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything. I do really enjoy the Green Roof project. I think it's really cool. I'm especially impressed that it's worked for this long. When I first joined, I was unsure about how well this would work long term, and honestly, the fact that it has worked for this long is it says a lot about you, because you managed to keep everybody together for this long. It's pretty impressive, gotta admit.
And honestly, I wasn't too sure how we were going to go from year 1 to year 2, who's going to be coming back, but a lot of folks stuck around. I'm happy to have everyone back, and we got great plans ahead of us, and we're going to have a great year.
Yeah, that's great. I'm excited. I can't wait to see what we come up with.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining me today and talking with our audience.
Yep, no problem. Happy.
And with that, we conclude our episode of Young Entrepreneurs with the Green Roof team. Special thanks to your sponsors, the SIU Research Park, Energy at SIU, SIU Sustainability Office's Green Fund Grant, the University Innovation Fellows, CH Electrical, Enertech, Raz Coatings, AES Solar, Sprague Supply Group, H&F Visions, Silvix Forestry and Nursery, Nether Chance Studios, Climate Economy Action Network, and many more. And please visit our website for more information and follow us on social media. Stay sustainable, folks.